Welcome to the F1 Time Portal. Today, we're sharing our POV on the 2026 Austrian Grand Prix. I'm your host, Luigi.
And I'm your other host, Andrew. So let's go.
That was a great let's go, Andrew, and thank you for filling in for Rosa today.
All good, no problem at all.
Yeah, so we've just watched the Austrian Grand Prix, and we're here to talk about it, right? Shall I quickly recap the qualifying,
Let's
top
do it.
10? The top 10. So we had the final result was Russell, Leclerc, Hamilton, Antonelli, Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Hadjar, Lawson, and Lindblad. Interesting qualifying, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's always close at the Red Bull Ring, given that it's such a short circuit. But
Yeah.
it was sort of a bit, despite that, it was a bit Noah's Arky feel about it. You know, you had Mercedes,
Yeah.
and probably would have finished 1-2, maybe. Ferrari, Red Bull, and even down the bottom, they were sort of coming in 2 by 2.
All the way down.
All the way down, Racing Bulls, Alpine, Audi, and right to the bottom. But, it was exciting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was interesting to see that you had nearly it looked like for a second there towards the end. Obviously, Max changed this whole thing up a bit, but you had for a brief moment there, I thought Ferrari had 1-2. Until George crossed the line and was that a double yellow? Was that a single yellow? That drama played out pretty quickly. But I was sort of hoping for that Ferrari 1-2, and then it was all ripped away. And I'm not even a Ferrari fan.
Yeah, well, I think with certainly the broadcasts that I was watching, you really didn't have any idea how fast Mercedes were going on that last run, because they were obviously the last two, so they kept showing the cars as they came across the line. So for Russell to end up taking pole by, nearly a quarter of a second, despite the yellow flag incident.
Well, a pretty big lift.
You didn't actually know that he was going that quick.
They said he lost 0.25 on his lift, and he still got pole by about 0.25. So he was dominating. I think Antonelli would have been there or thereabouts with him, like you mentioned before. So
it's interesting because I think if you watch the MotoGP coverage, they always have, even if they're not showing the rider, they have the sort of position, the indicator to see, whether it's a green or a purple segment.
Yeah.
But Formula One, you don't actually know until, unless you've got the live timing on.
Yeah.
You wouldn't actually know, how fast someone's going until they cut to the, in the main broadcast. So
you've made an interesting comment, because in recent F1, and I'm not even going to say olden days F1, but in recent F1, they've shown the the yellow, the purple, the green, and they've taken that away. And they've taken that away along with that whole, the halo.
The
halo
sectors,
the mini sectors, and the halo, which also had a huge amount of information that I don't know if it's because I'm watching the different broadcasts, because as you've introduced it to me, there's 2 broadcasts we get in Australia for KO. One is the Sky TV one, which has Martin Brundle and the other guy, and the F1 commentary, which has David Coulthard and Joylyn Palmer. Now, they get the same video feed, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. But you only see the odd one of the mini sectors and the halo during qualifying. You don't see it very often.
But we should see it all the time.
Oh, you should. I mean, that gives you all the information.
Yeah, I mean, as some of you listeners know, Andrew and I and others went to the Japanese Grand Prix together this year, and we were using the little app, and the app was awesome. It was giving, and it wasn't exactly the F1 app. I think it was some pirated app. Who knows?
It was something different. It was a free one.
It was a free one, yeah. But it was great. It gave you the mini sectors, it gave you the sectors. And I was like, how can you watch this sport and be into it and be oblivious to this other than just being surprised at the end?
Because even now, I wouldn't even know whether Antonelli was on. Obviously, he lifted with the yellow, but was he on track to beat Russell?
Apparently,
does anyone
he was.
actually know?
Yeah, I haven't. But I mean, I'm sure if we looked it up, we could see that. I sort of won't bother because that doesn't change the result anyway.
No,
so why bother? Yeah. But I mean, I was going to ask you, what do you thought about Max going off in that Q3? He was really pushing hard, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's funny because I think at the last couple of podcasts we've done, we've sort of commented that he doesn't make too many mistakes.
Yeah.
But I did read somewhere that Red Bull were suggesting that there was an issue with his aero at the rear during qualifying. So, yeah, he was obviously pushing pretty hard because I think he was, after the first run, was he third or second? Like he was right up there. He was only
he was definitely up
behind
there
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a devious theory, which is that Red Bull were finally exposed for having the fastest engine, and so they said, now that we've been exposed, now there's no more sandbagging to do.
No, we might as well just go for it.
Yeah. But no, but he was in a class of his own because Hadjar was initially with him, but then fell away. But I mean, Verstappen was also lucky to get into Q3 because he only just made it from Gasly. That was real close. That was very close.
Well, I think that's just one of those team things, isn't it? Where they cut it really close to the wire.
Yeah. But the only other couple of things I picked up from qualifying was, the George just drive comment from Toto to George Russell. It's just it wasn't meant in any bad way, but it's like he was basically just saying, just get on with it. You've lost a lap, just do it now. So that was interesting. And Alonso saying, we're getting closer, at the end of Q1 when Astons were like a second behind the Cadillacs. They were over a second behind the Cadillacs, weren't they?
Well, Perez did a 108.945 and Alonso did a 109.942. So,
yeah,
0.997.
Close enough to a second.
But I got that as well. He said, "Look, I couldn't go any faster.
Yeah,
and we're getting closer. But this is such a short track. And you think that the Cadillacs were, I don't know, it's a short track, but they were less than 1.5 seconds off Q1 time.
Yeah.
They're obviously improving at a quicker rate than the Aston Martin.
Oh, the race is a different story, but we'll get to the race.
That's right.
But yeah. The only other thing I was going to say was about the single yellow or the perceived judgment of Antonelli. He lifted because he thought he saw a double yellow. Should he have waited for the team to tell him? Like, was George using his experience there? Like, do you think that was the difference?
I think George was saying with the double yellow, it's like a diagonal yellow on the board, like on the digital board, and the single yellow is just a single yellow's like it's all blacked out, all yellowed out. So whether or not Antonelli, because he came on there first, he was the first one past, wasn't he? So.
Yeah.
Maybe it just flashed up at that stage and he just lifted automatically.
Yeah.
But, I think the argument really is, it should have probably been a double yellow, I would have thought, given the
I would have thought double yellow straight up as on. I thought Antonelli was right to assume. And I was even wondering, isn't lifting at that corner on a yellow like what George did? George didn't do anything wrong. He followed the rules. But isn't it wrong? Isn't the yellow meant to be for safety? So therefore, you're meant to really lift, not do a 0.25 lift like that's going to save someone's life or save a mechanic's life if they're on the track. Do you know what I mean? Like a 0.25 lift is not moving the dial of safety.
Yeah, well, I think his argument was he didn't even see Verstappen in the barrier. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, a yellow flag could be for anything. It could have been for someone spinning or,
Yeah.
I don't know. I still feel like it should have been a double anyway.
Or, and I think even a single yellow should negate any lap.
Yeah,
Like
it should be
should not even count.
yeah, it should be a much bigger lift. You're probably right.
Yeah, I'd call it a token lift. But, George needed this pole though. So, that's the way it goes sometimes, and it went his way. So,
Yeah, well, he was adamant, wasn't he, that he didn't do anything wrong. So,
yeah, and he didn't, to be honest. But
no.
I think the rule is wrong. So, yeah. Well, shall we go to the race? Any other comments about qualifying or anything before the race?
I don't think so. I think it was exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it certainly, it made it interesting from a anticipation of the race, given that Ferrari was so strong in Barcelona. So you were sort of thinking,
Yeah.
well, if they repeated that form,
On the money, yeah.
and even
Yeah.
McLaren, even though they qualified 6th and 7th, they were only a tenth and a half behind the Ferrari, so they weren't that far off the pace from a qualifying perspective. So
Yeah.
they were all sort of lined up pretty close to each other.
And not only that, Antonelli was actually fastest in Q1 and Q2 and just looked in control. So I really think that, like you said, it's set up for a good race because we had Antonelli, clearly the fastest, pretty much out of position. So, yeah.
Yeah, and has had the wood on pace over Russell all year, really, other than the first
that's
couple
right.
of races.
Yeah, Russell needed Antonelli buffer, and he got it. So we're up to the race, yeah? So the race result, just going through I won't do the whole race result, but just say the top 10. We had Russell winning the race, Verstappen 1.6 seconds back in second, Antonelli third, 1.9 seconds back. Then Piastri all the way down in fourth, 21.8 seconds back. Then Hamilton, Hadjar, Norris, Leclerc way down in eighth, Lawson and Lindblad. So you had the two Racing Bulls picking up points, pretty much finishing where they started. Was Lawson ahead of Lindblad? I think he was in qualifying. Let me have a quick double check.
Well, I think they
he was.
They swapped around during the race, and then at the second pit stops, I think they swapped them back.
Intentionally, or it just turned out that way?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So. I mean, there was enough attention at the front to not pay attention to those back stuff. You know what I mean? So, I mean,
and I think the other thing was there was very few DNFs other than the two Cadillacs, which you might get into, and then Aston Martin, Stroll, and Sainz in the Williams. So, of the points paying drivers, who were going for points, there wasn't a lot of DNFs, so there wasn't really a lot of movement.
Yeah, that's true. And it was interesting that the top four teams, the big four, they all finished as well. And that's not often the case. So therefore, you don't often see, it's weird to hear these top drivers in top teams coming 6th, 7th and 8th. But that's the best you can do when you've got four top teams, or that's the lowest you can finish, essentially.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And, there was the weird thing, which you might get into, but, I think the Racing Bulls and even the Cadillacs, they were talking about having fires in their cars.
That was at the beginning. It was that, and Perez was selling smoke.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? I was wondering what was going on for a second there. I thought, but the heat must have really been impacting everyone. But
I think Lawson in the Racing Bulls, he had the same issue, was a similar issue. In the first half a dozen laps.
Was it the brakes burning? That's what they said, right?
Could have been. Yeah, maybe just the residual smoke or fire or steam or whatever from the brakes.
Yeah. But we've got Rosa about to join us. So apologies, everyone. Rosa wasn't able to join us because she had IT issues, but she's about to join us soon. So I wonder if we start talking about the race, and because Rosa's no doubt going to want to talk about some Ferrari things. We had some interesting Ferrari decisions in this race. But for the race start, I mean, Hamilton made a pretty good start and he outmaneuvered Leclerc. What did you think of that? Any comments about that start?
Not really. I mean, it's always a little bit congested at that track. You go up to that turn 3, the hairpin,
Mm,
and the switchback.
yeah.
But I think, Ferrari drivers just trying to reassert their authority, one way or
Yes.
the other.
Yeah, because it's looking like it's going one way right now. But
Yeah.
but Hamilton did a good job of getting past Leclerc, I think. That was pretty impressive. And I just thought Antonelli seemed to be in the weeds a bit at the race start. Like he was having a lot of wheel-to-wheel issues with everyone for the first few laps. And even that scene where the two McLarens came on either side of him, I thought, this is going to be dramatic. What's going to happen here? But luckily he held on. But that would have changed his race completely if those McLarens got him.
Well, he was a bit, a bit messy, wasn't he? He was off the track a few times, running wide at turn 1, I think a few times.
Yeah.
Even I think in the interview afterwards, he sort of said that it was a messy start from him until he
Yeah.
sort of settled down.
But I mean, he did settle down, but it just showed a little bit of his rookiness, I think. Like he was probably agitated to be out of position and
probably trying to make
a
move, early on without having the patience.
Yeah. But I mean, Max was up there. He made a good start too because he was like 5th and he was up to 3rd pretty quickly. So, and we had 3 different drivers in 3 different teams for most of the early part of the race, which I think is like 1970s type Formula One, Yeah, so should we get to the topic of the day? Well, I thought it was the most exciting part of the race was when Hamilton and Max were having their little wheel argy-bargy stuff. What did you think of that?
Look, I was surprised it didn't end in tears, given their previous history.
Yeah.
Certainly they weren't giving each other, as much as they weren't really banging wheels, they were pretty aggressive, both pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
And I think the one that Max finally got him on, which was into turn, I don't know, it's hard. Is it turn 6, one of the infield turns?
Yeah, I think so.
He really dove
yeah.
it in pretty hard and pushed Lewis pretty wide.
Yeah.
Because I think Lewis pushed Max off the track a few times as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Max was complaining about it.
Yeah, Max was complaining, and it's ironic because obviously Max is the one that invented this style of driving and perfected it to the extent that he got away with it for quite a period of time. And they had to make rules to counter it, I guess. But I thought Hamilton was. My perception of it was he was 80% what Max would have done if the situation was reversed. I think Hamilton was pushing Max mostly off the track, but Max would have taken him completely off the track. So that was my view of it, and I thought it was because I don't want Scalatrix processional driving. I want some battles. And I thought that was as far as the battles could go, and it went there, and I was happy with it. So I didn't think any penalty was required, and none was given, I'm glad to say. So did you think it was all above board?
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Look, it was, on the edge, but
yeah,
I think it all sort of worked out in the end. It wasn't like anyone went off the track and spun or had damage or anything. But certainly it was. Yeah, it was aggressive and it was good to watch.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it. And then we had the strategy car moment, or the safety car, as F1 likes to call it. Why did Hamilton go on softs? He was the only one that pitted. Was he the only one that pitted under that safety car? And he went on softs. Well, and he had fairly new hards on his tyre. He had fairly fresh hards.
Well, I think this was the big talking point in the race, wasn't it? After Barcelona, where they were so good on their tyres and so good on their strategy. Whereas here they just faded away. But I think, I read something afterwards where they just said they didn't have any pace at all on the hard tyres.
Yeah.
And, maybe the the tyre deg, because remember at the start, they were all saying, all the commentators were saying, it's a 2-stop race.
Yeah.
Some teams might choose a 3-stop.
Yeah.
But then during the race, there was sort of this discussion about, well, can we get by on just the 1-stop? So I think maybe the tyre deg wasn't as much as anyone was hoping or thinking.
Yeah. Mm.
And maybe that affected Ferrari more than anyone else.
Possibly, but was it a mistake? Was it desperation?
The thing is that
why
he
did
still
they
finished
do it?
20 seconds ahead of Leclerc.
That's not a good reference.
Not this year. He was on probably the traditional strategy, wasn't he? So
yeah,
maybe because the tyre deg wasn't as high, they thought they could get away with the softs, but
yeah,
I don't actually think it mattered. He ended up getting back on the hard, and he was still probably running in the top 3 or 4, but he faded to 5th anyway. So,
well, when he was on those softs, he didn't seem to be pulling anyone in around him at dramatic rate. Like you'd think fresh softs against even fresh hards should make a difference, but it sort of didn't. And then what surprised me was about lap 37 when Hamilton caught up to Leclerc, and it was like Ferrari let them. This is what I saw with my eyes, and then I was shocked what happened. So there's Hamilton and Leclerc battling, affecting each other's race, because that's what happens when you have two drivers battling. And I was like, okay, Ferrari's not going to say to Leclerc, let him through, he's on a different strategy. That's what I expected to hear. But I didn't hear that. And I thought, they're being fair. They're being honourable, blah, 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 right? So I was digesting that, thinking maybe Ferrari are doing the right thing. Maybe they're trying to be right and fair. And then Leclerc goes into the pits. And I'm like, what did I just see?
What was the point? Yeah.
What was the point? If you know you're going to bring Leclerc in, you tell Leclerc, let him through.
Let him
You're
pass.
pitting.
Yeah, you lose, a second, maybe 2 maximum.
Why? That was insane. Was it me, or did I misread something? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. It's unexplainable, really.
So that's their second mistake in my books. One, that they put Hamilton on the softs, unnecessarily moving him back, and he didn't have pace for it. And then Ferrari let them battle, which I was baffled about. So
after the strategy masterclass that Ferrari put on in Barcelona,
Spain.
Are we just back to the same old Ferrari from previous years?
Did they just fluke it? Is that what it is? They fluked it? Because this is like armchair era stuff, It's like, if we can see it in our armchair, surely the strategists with all their dozens of people evaluating all the data, how did they get something so wrong?
They must have just got ahead of themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I just want to check, did Hadjar end up finishing ahead of Leclerc?
Yep. So Hadjar finished 6th.
That wasn't a good look for Leclerc,
29 seconds off the lead, and Leclerc was 45 seconds.
So he fell away at a dramatic rate.
But I think Leclerc might have pitted again towards the end.
For what purpose?
Oh, I'm not sure, but
to make sure he's ahead of Lawson.
I'm pretty sure they said,
to cover
because he was
Lawson
asking, if I pitted now, would it
Yeah.
make any difference? And they said no.
So that's so why struggle and risk flying off the track, I guess. And he wasn't going to lose a place. Ironically, I was joking about losing a place to Lawson in 9th, but that was actually the question that Leclerc was asking. Like, will I fall back to 9th? Yeah. So it wasn't a good look anyway to see Hadjar getting past Leclerc. It was like, what's going on with Leclerc? So do you think
Hadjar ended up finishing ahead of Norris as well? So
yeah, he was in his zone. He was pushing.
Yeah, he had a good race actually.
So we had a really good climax because you had like a faster Leclerc catching up to a fast Antonelli catching up to a fast Verstappen, who was catching up to a medium George. If the race had gone on for, say, 3 laps, do you think we would have had a different result?
I don't know. It's hard to say. But what I was going to say was, because we haven't seen it for the last 3 or 4 races, but there was a few passes in this race where, drivers in front had used up their battery and then, were struggling on the next straight and,
Yeah.
a bit like earlier in the year. So, it certainly could have ended up something like that. And I think it's just the nature of the track where you've got, those, the fast start finish straight, then you're into another long straight, then you're into another long straight where, battery optimization was pretty important.
Yeah.
So, I think if Max had got to George's tail, it could have been a pretty exciting result or finish anyway.
Do you think I think if it had gone for 5 laps, I think Antonelli was going to win it. And I'm guessing if it had gone for 3 laps, I think Antonelli was going to win it, but in a different way. Because I think Max, knowing there was only 3 laps, Max and George were going to collide.
I actually think that Max wouldn't have let Kimi past. I mean, what's Max? Max is only really in it for results, right? He's not going to win the championship this year.
Yeah, he wants a win. It's win or nothing,
so do you think
win or bust.
He wouldn't have just pulled over and let Kimi go through?
No, I don't think he would have let Kimi go through. I think in the 3 laps, if it was 3 laps, I think Max would have gone for a more desperate lunge, maybe something more extreme than against Hamilton. And George knowing that he needs to get his elbows out to win this championship, he would have stuck his elbows out pretty hard because it's early in the season. And I think they would have taken each other out. That's my theory on the 3 laps to go. But 5 laps to go, it would have made Max less desperate. So therefore, they wouldn't have collided. Anyway, that's my theory anyway. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and given the results, Kimi only finishing 2 seconds behind, that qualifying yellow flag thing was even more significant.
He would have won. I think Kimi would have won this race at a trot.
Yeah, I think so. If he did start on the front row,
yeah. And do you think if Max hadn't gone off, if Max had been on the front row, could he have won this race? I think maybe not, is my feeling.
Yeah, you just didn't know, did you? They seemed to have the pace, but they were always sort of behind on the strategy a little bit, like they weren't really making the play.
Yeah, they were all reacting and responding to stuff.
Yeah, so he never really looked like he was ever going to get to the lead or, challenge. Even though he finished 1.5 seconds behind, he was sort of always that 3 to 4 seconds behind.
Yeah.
And never really got close enough to challenge. So whether or not that was just George maintaining his pace or, I'm not sure, but he never looked like he was going to get there.
Yeah. So we've had, I would call a less active race than previous races. Like Spain was pretty dramatic, lots of things happening, very action-packed. This was like less action-packed. So we're heading to, what is it? This is a stint of 4 races over 5 weekends. And obviously the probably the biggest race of the year, the British Grand Prix. When I say the biggest, I mean the one that has the most attendance. Has George reversed his bad form, or was this just a one-off?
I still think Antonelli's got his measure on pace. Don't you?
Yeah, I think this was
got
unlucky
in Spain. He lost, 20, 25 points there, and then here he's, the yellow flags probably cost him another 10 points. So I don't think I've seen enough yet to suggest that Russell's going to be ahead of Antonelli at any of the next 3 races.
And I'm on the same page as you, and I actually think what's going to work against George is that now we've got drivers like a confident Hamilton on the rise, we've got a confident Max on the rise. These guys are going to start getting in the way, and maybe if Antonelli is just ahead of George, they could split the Mercedes like Verstappen did at this race And I think George is a bit lucky to be where he was because of the double yellow, single yellow thing. But under normal conditions, it would have been probably Antonelli first, George third. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I think the future holds for George. And this is no bias against George. No bias against George when I say this.
No.
Yeah.
And really, you don't know what Ferrari are going to do, right? If they turn up with the same speed they had in Barcelona, they could wipe the field. So, it might depend on conditions.
Yeah.
I think Barcelona's probably, I think Silverstone's probably a little bit similar to Austria. There's a lot of long straights, a lot of long sort of sections where they're on full throttle. So, that's probably going to affect the, have we still got super clipping, but whatever that is, where they
stopped
run
talking
down their
about
battery. So
they're keeping it secret now. We don't know anymore.
No,
but we're not seeing as much yo-yoing anymore as well.
No, but as I said, like the Austrian race, there was, I would have, at least half a dozen passes where there was some battery deployment, to and fro, I guess.
But they kept it secret from us. But that's okay. We know what's going on.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, it's that red light at the back flashing, isn't it? Isn't that the secret indicator?
Yeah. Did they still do that? That was the old KERS, wasn't it?
No, they do. They were doing
that's the harvesting.
Yeah.
To let the drivers in front know that they're not closing in at a dramatic rate
correct.
on another driver. Yeah. Okay. Any other final comments from your end about the Austrian race?
No, not really. I mean, Racing Bulls, they sort of held their position, so they got the remainder of their points. But yeah, really, no one else made too much other ground. There was a few little different strategy calls, but I think ultimately it was a pretty tame race. After that, I think it was hard at the start to sort of work out how it was going to play out.
Yeah,
I felt, you sort of had different cars on different pace runs, and then the pit stops happened. But once we got through that second set of pit stops, it was pretty processional.
Yeah, it was, and I'm curious to see at what point Ferrari are going to make the call as to, here's number one, number two driver. Yeah, because at this stage, it's like they've signed the clerk for 1 million years, and he's the one that's not performing. So you got to back the driver who's carrying the team, and it's Hamilton right now.
Yeah.
So that's my last comment.
No.
Yeah.
And obviously we're going into the British Grand Prix where, that's probably worth 2 or 3 tenths to Hamilton, I would have thought, just in terms of his performance.
And it's one of Leclerc's worst tracks as well. So it's a perfect storm. Anyway,
shout out to Oscar Piastri for finishing 4th.
Yeah, for a quiet race for the McLarens.
He's probably been behind Norris in the last 2 or 3 races, so he finished 10 seconds ahead of him. Norris really didn't. He was sort of nowhere. He was sort of battling, in that 7th, 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th most of the day.
And that's where I admire drivers like Max, because when they were in cars that were like that level, they would haul that car up to 3rd or 4th or something. Whereas I'm not saying Norris is a different level driver, but he tends to, and Piastri's in the same boat. If their cars are just not that great, they're not able to overcome that. And
but I feel like Piastri was. I thought he was sort of within about 10 seconds for most of the race.
Yeah, he fell away at the end.
Fell away right at the end.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty solid performance. But they're still missing that 3 or 4 tenths a lap at the moment, McLaren, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a bit of a wrap, Andrew. So thanks for filling in. Sorry Rosa couldn't join us tonight. She had IT issues again, so she will no doubt be back next time. So thank you for stepping up, Andrew, and we'll speak to you all next time. And it's Andrew's birthday next race, so we won't have him next race. So happy birthday in advance, Andrew.
All right. Thanks, Luigi.
Okay, bye.